So, Inga, please start after 5 seconds.
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the second e-conference of IWRI. We're very proud of it. And I would like to introduce to you the head of IWRI, the director of IWRI, which is Professor Dr. Eliav Ephraim. He's a PhD on he works at the Tel Aviv University of Israel, and he will first give a short introduction about IWRI and will also speak for us about the research on the phenomenon of consciousness on the basis of an integral science paradigm. So please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Inga, for the introduction. I will share my screen. And I will share my presentation. So, hello, everyone. I would like to also welcome you on our second International Scientific Electronical Conference. The title of our conference is Solving the Global Problems of Modernity through Integration in Society, Science, and Culture. And the goals of the conference is the following. First of all, we would like to consolidate the efforts of scholars, educators, and specialists in scientific integral approach in revealing unity of the laws of nature, society, and human development. And the second purpose is just to ensure the proper ways of strategic development of society and harmonization of social ties, relationships, development of the integral methodology and approaches for education and management. In particular, in our very complicated time of the epoch of global crises caused by the pandemic disease. We have 20 speakers, presenters from almost all corners of our world, from Asia, Africa, Europe, North America, and we hope that during our next electronical conference, which will be after half a year, we will have representatives of the all 6 continents, including Australia and South America. So the lectures that we will hear during our conference, they are from all different kind of specialities. We have scientists and university lectures, both from the humanitarians and the natural science fields. We have engineers, business entrepreneurs, clerks, medical doctors, journalists, artists, students. And we expected that there will be about 20,000 social media links to our conference via our broadcasting channels, I mean the YouTube and the Facebook channels. Now I would like to just describe to you what is the integral scientific worldview that our institute is trying to develop and to implement. The scientific worldview is based on the 3 actually basic points. First of all, we are trying to develop the scientific paradigm, which is based on the worldview that our world is integral, our reality is integral. It means that it is interconnected, interdependent, casual, purposeful, and synergetic. And I will talk more about this point during my special presentation. The second point is that we're trying to develop in practice in our institute so-called integral and collective perception of reality. And I will also give some short explanation what it is during my talk. And the second point is that in the third last point is that we are trying to develop integral forms of education and social management based on these two paradigms. And now I would like to proceed to my scientific presentation, which is called the problem of consciousness on the basis of the integral scientific paradigm. So from my very childhood, I actually started to ask questions concerning the outside world and especially about the consciousness. The hard what is the world like, what it is made of, why and how people are feeling and thinking, who am I, what are my mind and my brain, how they are connected, what is consciousness, why people hate and love. And actually, I started to think that I need to be a scientist, a scholar, in order to answer to all these questions. Especially, I accounted on chemistry because I thought that it is actually the proper way to investigate the world around me. So, actually, all my scientific career, I tried to answer to these questions, but the questions about our consciousness still cannot be answered. Also, you know that in modern time, consciousness has become a significant topic of the most interdisciplinary research in philosophy, cognitive science, anthropology, sociology, linguistic, biology, chemistry, physics, math, you name it. I mean, almost all scientific discipline try to solve the problem of consciousness, but still there are no clear understanding or even definition of this phenomenon, which is suitable for all the uh, disciplinary. So the problem of consciousness is really hard. And I would like also to quote one of the most outstanding specialists and research in this field, Professor Chernigevskaya from St. Petersburg University, Russia, and she told that the more we study the consciousness, the less we understand it. And it is actually true. So we have a clear need for the changing of the very scientific paradigm in order to really study this phenomena. And what kind of uh, clue we can get from our outstanding scientists if we would like to solve this problem? You know, Albert Einstein told that it is impossible to solve the problem at the same level as it is originated. So you need to be higher. You need to rise in the next level of the same consciousness. He's one of the best friend, Kurt Gödel, and you see both of them on this photo. He just makes some kind of scientific joke. He told about human beings that a handful of atoms cannot fully understand themselves. It means that we really need to rise at least one level of consciousness high in order just to investigate what is our personal consciousness. And there are also some hints that we are getting from nature. How should we investigate this hard phenomenon? And the first hint is property which is called synergy. You know that there are four levels of matter organization in nature. We have still, vegetable, animate, and human levels. Actually, the same pyramid we can draw for the desires, which is actually part of the consciousness. And I will return to this point later. But for the time being, I would like to just make clear what is the synergy on some example of inanimate level on chemistry. You see here the molecule of water, and water is made of three atoms. This is example from chemistry, from my specialty. And we have three atoms which are joining together to organize actually the new unity, the new substance, which is called molecule. And we know that the property of molecule of water is very, very different of the properties of atoms which consist in this, which are combined to organize these molecules. And this is precisely the property of the synergy when entire system cannot be described as a simple sum of the of its components. And if we go to the more high level, to animal level, then please guess what do you see now? I can show you another picture in order probably to help you. Maybe not, but the answer is very simple. You see actually the very huge anthill. So this is example when these small, very wonderful insects are building so enormous and large and complex construction, which is similar to the city. They have all the city services there, like we humans have. They have different kind of services like city cleaning, police, etc., etc., etc. So this is also the example of the synergetic connections of this insect in one unity, which is called the uh, anthill. And is this anthill has consciousness which is actually much higher than individual intelligence of each and every insect which is inside this unity. And if we are talking about the synergy, then we have a very nice quote of Mark Twain, which is called that synergy is the bonus that it is achieved when things work together in harmony. So if we are talking human beings, then I should say that many uh, evolutional biologists and anthropologists, when they're talking about human beings, they also told that the evolution of human beings is not finished yet. And the next step should probably be the same human anthill like we have in the case of ants, because there are many indications that we actually are uh, the same, which that we humans also are super organism, like the super organism as the anthill is. But the point is that we don't know how to organize this human super organism. The evolutionary biologists and psychologists and other specialists, they don't know how to make possible these synergy connections that ants can organize and we human beings still cannot. And we have another hints from nature, how probably we should proceed to these synergy connections between us in order to rise to the next level of consciousness. And this is the symmetry. Actually, our nature prefer two different kind of symmetries. The first is spherical symmetry or circular symmetry, and the second is linear symmetry. This is the two main symmetries in nature, and all different objects in microcosm or macrocosm, they actually explore this symmetry like atoms or molecules. For instance, the molecular structure of DNA that you see now, it has in a combination two symmetries, the circle symmetry and the linear symmetry. And if you're talking about the periodic table of elements, then it is amazing, but probably it will be much better to put it in a circle. In this case, you will see the chemical and physical properties of many elements much more clear, and also interconnections between these properties. But you really can see the round symmetry or circle symmetry or spherical symmetry really in many cases. For instance, this is the elementary particle round box where you can see them in a proper order. If we are talking about our universe, big scale, then the form of planets, of stars, of entire galaxies also has this symmetry. We have many examples from life systems as well. And what about our human beings? How we should explore this clue from nature in order to really make this proper synergetic organization, link organization between us. And here we are coming to the next hint from the point of view of theory of information. You know, we are living in a time when modern picture that physics gives us about our the most fundamental building blocks in nature, as we are thinking about the matter, like elementary particles and wave. Actually, physicists nowadays are saying that they are not actually the uh, pieces of matter, but actually they are considered all these elementary objects nothing else but being the special topological or informational structures of vacuum, of nothingness. So we can see that we are living in a very strange world where the matter is and the energy is nothing else but the informational blocks. So we can use this uh, clue also to make some promotion of what we are uh, developing, the integral scientific paradigm, and they use the fundamental concepts in laws in all human knowledge and perception of reality in the terms of information. And if we will use it, then we are coming to the integral paradigm. And I have only a couple of minutes just to show you what it is. So integral paradigm is really use the informational fundamental building blocks for its structure. It builds on the property of integrality. Unfortunately, I have no time to describe it. It is also used to build on the property of resonance structure of the uh, interaction of different informational structures. It is also should use the property of sphericity and linearity in order to be suitable to the most fundamental laws of conservation in nature. And it should be used so-called minimax principle as the foundation of its law of the foundational law of evolution. And the most ideal informational structure to suit all these demands are desires. So the desire is should be just formulated as the informational structure which is ready for informational exchange, receiving or giving, caused by inadequate informational feeling or informational imbalance with environment. And we also need to make some practical application of this paradigm and what our institute is trying to develop is really trying to implement all this all this paradigm into the perception of reality. So we're trying to develop so-called the common or collective uh, uh, organs for the perception of reality. And what does it mean in practice? So we need to make a special group methodology, which is based on integral education, and all this should be planned and fulfilled in the special steps. We need to develop so-called mutual guarantee and secular network support in our society. We need to work as a team. We need to use roundtable seminars and brainstorming, collective games, joint meals, and so-called social activity to practice our methodology. And very, very important, we need to have constant secular discussions about the importance and the ways of reaching the common goal, creating a universal human superorganism in the next level of conscious and purposeful human evolution. And this is my last slide, where I am just ensuring you that this level of synergy, of synergetic connections between people should really lead not only to the upper level of consciousness, but to the complete harmony in human society and nature. Thank you very much. And please, probably there are a couple of questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Ephraim, for this wonderful presentation. Indeed, other questions? We don't have much time, but please, if there is a burning question, now's the time.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yes. Is the Institute going to dedicate a special research about the desires, or this will be something common for all the researchers to research desires?
Yes, actually, we are really planning to organize a special research team to devote to this particular question, because if we really want to develop a full-scale theory and implement it in practice, then we need to have very serious scientific investigation, what it is desires and how it functioning in a small team and larger team and all the human society.
Thank you. Are there more questions, please? Okay, well, thank you very, very much. It was extremely interesting. We'll go to our next presenter, which is Dr. Valeria Kaghaturian from Russia, PhD in History, Senior Researcher, Institute of General History and Russian Academy of Sciences. The presentation will be about the problem of the future in modern science and the formation of integral futurology. Please go ahead.
Добрый вечер. Мой доклад посвящен проблемам будущего, который в наши дни вызывает особый повышенный интерес и в научных кругах, и в средствах массовой информации, и в массовом сознании. Будущее давно уже стало объектом дискуссий и исследований. И это, безусловно, в первую очередь объясняется тем сложным переходным периодом, в который вступило современное человечество. Ритм исторических изменений возрастает по экспоненте, и последствия трансформаций в социальной реальности совершенно неочевидны. Многочисленные глобальные проблемы усиливают ощущение глобальной неопределенности. Разрушается наиболее характерное для человека представление о том, что завтра будет похоже на сегодня. Вполне естественно, что в этой сложной ситуации очень востребованной является футурология или futures studies, относительно молодая наука, зародившаяся примерно в 60-х годах XX века. Футурология занимается по преимуществу глобальным долгосрочным прогнозированием, то есть создает сценарии будущего всего человечества. И перед этой наукой сейчас стоят крайне важные задачи. Она должна определить характер и результаты грядущих перемен, подготовить к ним индивида и общество, дать новые ориентиры и цели социальной деятельности. И, конечно, разработать рекомендации, как избежать глобальных рисков и создать хорошее будущее. В какой степени футурология, вот такая, какая она сейчас есть, способна выполнить эти задачи? В какой степени точны и обоснованы прогнозы, предсказаний и рекомендации? За 60 лет своего существования футурология, безусловно, добилась больших успехов. Она зарекомендовала себя именно в качестве науки, вошла в состав социальных дисциплин, разработала свои методы исследования. И я хочу напомнить, что именно футурологи впервые, еще в 70-х годах прошлого столетия, привлекли внимание мирового сообщества к глобальным проблемам. Я имею в виду доклады Римскому клубу. И тем не менее футурология пока не добилась высокого авторитета, и часто отношение к ней весьма скептическое. С чем это связано? Прогнозы предостережения по поводу глобальных проблем, экологических или техногенных катастроф уже давно были сделаны. Однако это нисколько не изменило ситуацию нарастания глобального кризиса. Вспомним знаменитый доклад «Пределы роста», первый доклад Римскому клубу. Его авторы предложили резко сократить производство и потребление, особенно в преуспевающих странах, изменить образ жизни и систему ценностей. Эти и другие сходные рекомендации, которые были призваны остановить развитие кризисных процессов, так и не были реализованы, поскольку они требовали слишком больших трансформаций, слишком больших жертв. В наши дни, как считают социологи и психологи, вот такие пессимистические прогнозы, предупреждения вызывают чаще всего негативную реакцию отторжения. С другой стороны, не подтвердились или подтвердились лишь отчасти более оптимистические прогнозы, предсказания, авторы которых делали ставку на научно-технический прогресс. В частности, не подтвердились многие идеи Элвина Тофлера, который утверждал, что третья волна в истории цивилизации, связанная с ведущей ролью науки, внедрением информационных технологий, исправить недостатки общества второй волны, то есть общества индустриального. Даже компьютерное математическое моделирование, которое позволяет вводить много переменных, обрабатывать огромное количество статистических данных, не помогло создать точные и сбывающиеся прогнозы будущего. В математических моделях, оказывается, присутствует и субъективный фактор, то есть идейные предпочтения ученого. Кроме того, любые прогнозы, как выяснилось, могут не реализоваться из-за так называемых диких карт, wild cards. Это непредсказуемые, крайне редкие, маловероятные события, которые, тем не менее, происходят иногда и могут радикально изменить всю жизнь общества. Не менее важны и слабые сигналы, социальные процессы и структуры, которые находятся на периферии жизни общества, они почти незаметные. Но с течением времени они могут оттеснить те тенденции, которые мы считаем ведущими, на которых мы строим свои прогнозы, и неожиданно выйти на первый план. Вместе с тем это может и не произойти, то есть слабый сигнал может оказаться не предвестником будущего, а незначительной девиацией. Конечно, прогнозирование в том виде, в каком оно сейчас существует, сталкивается с очень большими проблемами. Кризис долгосрочного прогнозирования, разочарование в нем послужил импульсом для разработки новых и, по-моему, очень плодотворных подходов к изучению будущего. В современных Future Studies появились идеи, которые, с моей точки зрения, имеют большую и практическую, и эвристическую ценность. Прежде всего, это идея о том, что человек способен конструировать желаемое будущее. Будущее надо
The
не
future should
предсказывать, а
not be
создавать,
predicted but
как
created.
многих
This
современных
is the motto of
теоретиков,
many
которые
futurologists
опираются
who
на
rely on the
концепции
concept of
конструктивизма,
constructivism by
социологического.
sociologists
Здесь акцентируется роль
Luckman
преобразующей
and
деятельности
Berger
человека.
and emphasize
В
the
наши
role
дни
of transforming
эту
human society.
идею
Nowadays,
поддерживают и
this
дают ей
idea is
теоретическое
supported and given a
обоснование
theoretical
не
foundation and
только
synergies.
футурологи, но и синергетики,
In the era
которые утверждают, что в эпохе бифуркации, то есть
bifurcations and
развития сложных систем,
polyfurcations,
любых
for
сложных
example,
систем,
branching paths of
особую
development
значимость
of
имеют
complex systems
флуктуации,
of
мелкие
particular importance
колебания,
are fluctuations, small
которые
fluctuations
определяют
which are determined
поступками
in
жизненными
social
целями
systems
и
by
ценностями
actions,
индивидов,
life
если мы
goals,
говорим,
and
конечно,
values of
о социальных
individuals.
системах.
In this
В этой
regard,
связи большое значение
great
придается и
importance is
образам будущего,
attached to the
которые мы
images of the future,
сами
our
же и
ideas
создаем.
about the future, and
Наши
are
представления о
capable
будущем
of
способны
influencing
влиять в той или
to
иной
one
степени
degree
на
or
само
another
будущее.
the future
Создается своего
itself,
рода обратная связь.
creating a feedback, for
То
example,
есть уменьшаются или
decreasing or
увеличиваются
increasing
вероятность того
the
или иного
likelihood of
сценария
a
благодаря
particular scenario.
образам будущего, которые существуют в массовом сознании. И здесь нет никакой мистики, это объясняется тем,
This,
что образ
this is
будущего,
explained by the
даже
fact
если
that the
индивид этого не
image of the
осознает,
future, even
влияет на его
if the
поведение.
individual
То
is
есть вот
not
на те
aware of
самые
it,
флуктуации, о которых я говорила.
influences his behavior, this
Проблема, однако,
fluctuation that I
заключается в
mentioned
том, что
before.
число
The problem, however,
альтернативных
is that the
сценариев
number
на
of
сегодняшний
alternative
день очень
scenarios is
велико.
very
Это и
large.
цивилизационные войны,
Civilization
согласно
wars,
Самуэлю Хантингтону,
by
глобальная
Huntington,
катастрофа,
a
которая
global
вернет человечество на
catastrophe
уровень
that will return
первобытности,
humanity
глобальное
to the
тоталитарное
primitive level,
общество или,
global
наоборот,
totalitarian
глобальный
society,
либеральный
or
многополярный
liberal
мир.
networked world,
Технократические утопы
technocratic
разного рода
utopias,
еще далеко не иссякли.
the
Переселение
resentment
людей
of
на
people
другие
to add
планеты,
resettlement of
трансгуманистический
people to other
сценарий
planets,
усовершенствования человека с помощью биотехнологий. Это
transhumanistic
еще далеко
scenario
не
of
все. Я
human
назвала все
improvement
сценарии, которые
through
сейчас
biotechnology and many
существуют.
others.
И
There are
имеют
many
своих
others that I
сторонников,
haven't
своих
mentioned.
идеологов. Остается в данной ситуации совершенно
According
непонятным, какое
to
именно желаемое будущее
what
следует
is the
конструировать.
desired future we
Я
need to
хочу
construct,
подчеркнуть,
I
что
would like to
именно
emphasize that
разнообразие вероятных сценариев
the,
будущего и
the variety of
невозможности
images of the future that exist
определить
in the same time
точно, какой из них
indicates the
реализуется,
instability of
это
society
принципиальная позиция.
in confusion before the coming changes.
Название дисциплины.
But most importantly, it's
Лучше
unclear what kind of
сознающих
desired future should be designed.
будущих, а не
It should be
будущего.
emphasized that is a variety of probable scenarios of the future are the impossibility of determining which of them is being realized. The principal position of many modern futures. This position makes the idea of constructing the desired future impractical because there are too many models that do not agree with each other, and sharply reduces the predictive capabilities of future studies, which from my point of view indicates another crisis of this science, which never came to the expected the level of planning to the future. It's obvious that modernization is required, first of all, of the theoretical and methodological base of futurology. This task can be fulfilled by a new emerging integral approach, which is being developed in philosophy, including in the works of Ashlag and Michael Lightman, in systemology, synergetics, global evolutionism, co-evolution theory. What are the features and advantages of this approach, which open a new stage of the development of futurology? The problem of the future is considered in the broadest possible context. The general picture of the universe, its universal laws and global evolution, of which social evolution is a part. Only the study of the principles of functioning and development of natural and social systems make it possible to give grounded scenarios of the future. Integral philology, while sharing in general the idea of possibility of constructing the desired future, nevertheless believes that these possibilities are by no means limitless. Let us turn to the well-known synergetics, who believe that not all scenarios can be realized, but only those that correspond to the direction of the internal development of the social system, its predetermined capabilities. Therefore, any voluntaristic attempts at design or forecasting that do not take this factor into account are doomed to failure. What is the predetermined direction of the development of society? It is determined by integrity, interpretation, inter-inclusion, mutual consistency, and self-similarity of all the elements that make up the system. This fundamental principle of the structure of the universe, organization and evolution of all its subsystems, is revealed by post-non-classic science. Thus, it can be said that, with certain reservations, that the evolution of natural and social systems is purposeful and determined by their own internal properties, the integrality regionally contained in them, which is revealed in the course of development. The term evolution accordingly approaches its original meaning unfolding, although it's not reduced to it. The idea of predestination is associated with the idea that present is determined not only by the past, but also by the future, is completed from the future thanks to structures, attractors. It's a very popular idea these days and researched by synergetics. The structure attractor is the global of the self-development of the things, its path to itself. Hence the feeling that the process of evolution unfolds as if according to the program originally laid down. Achieving the state of integrality that can be considered as the main goal of the development of society. Therefore, integral philology, in contrast to the future studies, puts forward not much, but only one scenario of the future. The transformation of mankind to a global integral society that means the interests of all mankind and preserves unity with all the richness of the diversity of nations. In concluding my report, I want to note that integral philology is focused on not only on theory, but also on practice. I offer clear recommendations on how to construct an integral future. Thank you.
Я закончила, спасибо.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor. I don't think we have too much time for questions, but we can take one question if someone has a question for the professor. Yes, Professor Efraim.
Well, I'll speak in Russian. Valeria, большое спасибо за
Valeria, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I would like to ask you, well, the Russian philology, such as Panov, Mazorityan, and such, they write about singularity that will come by 40s, and demographic singularity, technological singularity, and many others. What do you think in the frame of integral paradigm that you described, if if there's a solution to all of that, to all those problems. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for your question. I assume that idea of singularity is in essence one more of many scenarios that I already described before, like scenario of catastrophe, global catastrophe. I assume that in the frame of not only integral approach, but also just a description of the development of the system, like evolution, the global evolution. We talk about complexity and constant complexity of the level of those systems. So to speak about singularity is the same as the new level of existence of our system, social system, global system, in which awaits us. I don't think we can jump over this level to the level of singularity. In all the systems, as far as I know, and even in the natural systems, those things don't happen. She means jump. So one of the possible scenarios.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have a question from YouTube from Ulya Grekova. Why did evolution give man the ability to realize himself, but did not give the mind to understand why we need it?
Sorry. Will you repeat the
Yes.
question once more, please?
Yeah. Why did evolution give man the ability to realize himself, but did not give the mind to understand why we need it?
If possible, I answer in Russian, okay? Считается, что в науке считается, что эволюция
It is thought that evolution in principle go related to the development of our consciousness. It's not only for the people, mankind, but also for the global evolution itself. Why do we we're not conscious of this process? Because I think that conscious process is already in place. I don't think that the situation looks so pessimistic. I think we are conscious of that. And all the events that are happening right now, they force us to realize that. That's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Kakaturian. I would like to now present our next speaker, Inger Levitos. She is our chair from the Department of Arts and Culture at IWRI. She holds a Bachelor in Fine Arts with a teaching degree in Visual Arts. She is from Naarden, Holland, and she will speak about integral art for everyone. Inger?
Yes, thank you very much, Alina. Well, indeed, I would like to present tonight a platform for integral arts for all artists, all ages. And to introduce that, I would like to tell you more about the integral arts and how we look at it from the arts department. So we see it as art is a means of educating people. And the goal of creating integral art is to deliver man to a happy existence in the world and to add an eternal and perfect existence on top of that. The new art will be completely different. It will be founded on the unity of people. Its role will be to tell us about a whole new range of sensations that will be revealed in the connection between us. Those will be sensations and relationships of a completely different scale. And from then on, these very sensations and relationships will be expressed through art and therefore also through our culture. The artist does this by feeling the others as himself, and in this cooperation creates a new experience. In him will appear completely new sensations and feelings and also ways to express them. The desire for aesthetics, for self-expression, is one of the basic desires of humanity. This will happen because the new art will implement a new desire. A person begins to demand a greater and higher fulfillment. And this perspective exists and will definitely happen. Basically, how we see it is that integral art is a vector of growth. So the IWRI Arts and Culture Department launches today its online platform for artists, creatives and people with interest. It's for all ages, where we unite the artists, create the new art and new culture for the future world. And to give you kind of a sneak peek, I would like to show you this next video. So please check it out, IWRI Art at Facebook, and please join. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Inger. Thank you so much. Well, I would like now to present Dr. Kelechi Ahanonu Ajumole from Human Voice Ops, Biafra, West Africa. And Dr. Kelechi will speak about how did racism start and how could we cope with it? Dr. Kelechi?
Thank you so much for the introduction, and It's a great honor to see all of you one more time. This is our second conference. And please relax. Maybe I'm going to start this with a movie, a short movie, or it will be at the end of the movie. The topic is a little bit very uncomfortable when we talk about race and racism, but it's the reality, is what is obtainable today. And we're going to find out scientifically if actually there was anything like race. If there was nothing like race scientifically, when was it invented? And who invented it? And for what purpose? I'm going to share my screen and we will discuss that right away. Okay. Everyone can see my screen, hopefully. Good. This is not necessary. All of you know who I am. So what is race and where did the idea of being white or black person come from? Since science has already clearly showed everybody that we are made of the same particles and our DNA is the same. We have more like differences within races that we have in different races, if you know what I'm trying to say. All of us are genetically the same, and some of us, all of us originally come from Africa, and some of us migrated out of Africa into colder and darker places. And in that process, thousands of years, they begin to lose their melanin. Melanin is what makes you black, or lack of melanin makes you white. I think all of us know this. And then if you take a very good look at yourself right now, look at your hand, you will see that if you're a so-called black person, you don't see anything called black, you see brown. And if you're a so-called white person, you also see brown, but light one, the light brown. So originally, all of us came from Africa, like I said. West Africans had this greater content of melanin. And as it goes, we have the East Asians and then the Northern Europeans. They're also our brothers and sisters, but a lighter skin. So the question now is, when did racism start? I had to do a little inquiry, and I went to the University of Boston to talk to Dr. Ibrahim Kendi. And Dr. Ibrahim is a professor and an activist, and actually he was nominated as one of the most prominent or important people by Time magazine for 2020. And in his research, he was able to put a name on this guy who invented racism. And he called him Gomes de Surari. He's the chief chronicle of Portugal, who wrote a book in 1450 in which he did something that no one had ever done before. They needed a reason to go into Africa to kidnap people, and they wanted to justify this. So he was given the permission to write this book or to give justification for slavery. And he wrote a book, and in his book, he put together all the people of Africa, a very diverse and highly advanced people, and he put them into a group of inferior, beastly, pagan, uneducated, that needed to be civilized. And everyone knows, and I think he was also very sure of what sure that when he was writing down that it was a lie, because all pre-colonial time, some of the most sophisticated cultures in the world were found in Africa and are still in Africa. So why would this writer make this claim? I explained to you earlier, although the intention was to satisfy the Portuguese empire and also to satisfy the religious conscience. Maybe they were feeling bad. Why are we going to Africa to kidnap people and take them into slavery? So they had to create a fiction and write, like, you know, these people needed our help. And if we go back to pre-colonial time in Africa, as you can see the screen here, Africa has built. I don't want to exaggerate. Most of the philosophical, scientific, architectural inventions originally came from Africa. The screen I'm sharing with you is Benin Wall. It was found in Benin, which is in Biafra, Igodomigro. And there it's longer than the Chinese Wall and even stronger for defense. There are many others. We all know about the pyramids. If you go to some parts of North Africa, you will see the Pyramid of Giza and the pharaohs that built them. And research done on their skin and their hair proved that we are Black people. So why would governments go so far as putting all the whole people of African descent into uncivilized? So from that level, he was able to create whiteness out of Blackness. And the whole thing started going on. People started to believe like there are some superiority or inferiority race, which is purely unscientific. And we have explained that he went there to get free labor and to support his fiction, and also to steal diamonds and gold for the colonial masters. But today, we can also see more inventions coming out of Africa. When I tell my students about Philip Emeagwali, like he's the man who started the internet and supercomputers, they immediately go online to check it because they don't really believe it's possible that these things can come out of Biafra. Cyber optics, touch-tone telephone, just to name a few. And what is the solution? I've talked about it. Origin of race. How did this, we know how it came about, but how are we going to get over it? How are we going to solve or cope with racism? Then it's going to give us, I want us to have a simple analysis that there's nothing wrong and there's nothing really good. It's all about perspective. And there is either oneness or separateness. But we are the same. There's one thing that quantum physics has made us to understand. I'm sure Professor Ephraim can attest to that the observer and the observed are one and the same according to the laws of nature. Actually, it is the observer of the experiment that may determine the outcome of the experiment. So everything is inside the mind and our perceived consciousness. You may be wondering, how is it related to race? It is, because we have seen that genetically we are the same. Even the color is not true that somebody is Black or white, because you can look at your skin and still prove to yourself that it's nothing like Black or white scientifically. But to create a harmonious society, we need to understand the disharmony in the society and then tolerate and even cherish the differences. And environment determines everything. That's why in IWRI, we are developing a good environment where everybody with different opinions, worldview can come together and we can share from our differences. We can develop and even get better and tolerate one another. This is the wisdom from our ancestors. When I say ancestors, I mean all of us, black, so-called white, so-called Asians. We have one common ancestor, which is the scientific Adam. And with the wisdom of connection, we can learn this through integral education, that the whole world is one, and actually there shouldn't be black or white or yellow or any other name you can give it. And when we look at the news today, we will see that there's a huge division among people calling themselves different names and nationalities. And it's like a ticking bomb. If we do not do something about it, we may get into violence. And like history has shown us, when people start to separate things based on colors and nationality, it could lead into concentration camps and killing of innocent people just because of a fiction that someone is different or somebody is more intelligent or less intelligent than another. I don't know how much time I have, but I'm going to put some, one of my best astrophysicists. He said one of the biggest problems with the world today is that we have large groups of people who will accept whatever they hear on the grapevine just because it suits their worldview, not because it's actually true or because they have evidence to support it. The really striking things is that it will not take much effort to establish validity in most of these cases, but people prefer reassurance to research. Reassurance that, for example, some men really think that they are more than women. Well, every science and everything has been proven that men, if there should be anyone bigger or more intelligent, is not the man scientifically, it should be the woman, because women have bigger brain connections. But when people do not want to do a little bit of research, they fall back to this old beliefs that somebody is better or less than another. So my solution, or the solution we're offering, is an integral society where everybody will come together and learn how to tolerate and share with one another. I'm not going to quote Einstein because of time. I have a video I want to share with you created by IWRI. That will be very interesting to share with you. So together, we will make it. Thank you for your attention, but don't run away yet. I have to share a video with you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me now as I'm going to find the video.
Thank you, Dr. Kelechi. We do have a question. Why do we not feel that we are slaves to our desires? Why do we not feel that we are slaves to our desires?
Question is very, very difficult. I must be honest. I do not have the answer for that right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to pose a question? Oh. Okay, we have about 4 more minutes, Dr. Kelechi.
Yes, I want to give you a final conclusion with a short video clip. Just give me a second to find it. I'm not very good at using computers.
No problem. Thank you. Is there another question?
Может быть.
Да, вопрос, почему мы должны быть, что значит быть едиными? Что значит быть
What does
одним?
it mean to be
Доклада не ясно.
like one entity? I don't quite understand that.
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Пожалуйста.
Что значит быть
What does it mean
едиными?
to be one unity, in unity?
What does it mean to be free in one unity?
That's a very good question. There is a sense of joy that comes from having a deeper understanding of who you are. And you have this power to do what you want to do, regardless of whatever people may have a conceptual judgment about you. So freedom will be to fully live life to the fullest. And how can you live life to the fullest if you're always looking at who hates you and who loves you and who is black and who is white? You will be put in a box of complexes and unhappiness. So in my opinion, one needs to really connect with other people, find out that you fear, those things that you fear, maybe one of the great things in nature, like differences make you happier, in my opinion. Things are supposed to be not only in black and white, but the unity and tolerance of every human being on the planet, including animals and even the weather. With that, you can be able to operate on a consciousness of abundance and peace. That's where I understand unity. It means everything comes and everything is good. Black, white, and whatever. Even cultures and languages shouldn't be a problem for us. I'm not able to find this video. Unfortunately, it was done beautifully by Jasmine, but my system doesn't want to show it. I will share it on YouTube on our website, and you can have a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelechi. If you do find it later, we should have time for that. So our next speaker is Professor Valentina Ilganai. I'm sorry, I'll try to pronounce this as well as I can. Ilganaieva. She has a doctorate of science, and she is from the Ukraine. And she will speak today on the interaction as a factor of social and human integration. Thank you. Professor?
Да, добрый вечер всем. Приветствую всех участников.
Good day, everybody. I greet everybody who is involved in the conference. This is the subject of my presentation, and the material of my presentation shows some conclusions of the research conducted by the IWRI Humanities Department during the current year. Before starting the presentation, it is necessary to make a few preliminary comments on the object of consideration. First, recognition of the unity of universal laws of the development of the universe and co-evolutionary dependencies of the development of systems of different nature, including society and humanity. Second, interaction is considered as a medial factor in the formation, development, and integration of systems. Interaction can also be considered as a system. Humanity is also a system that unites a representative of a single human race, but it is a complex diversity. In this presentation, I would like to justify the need to use constructive and conceptual synthesis as a method that allows you to operate with megasystem objects such as nature, science, and humanity. It is assumed that the universal principle of interaction can be fully applied in the projection to provide solutions to the problem of survival of the systems, social system, society and biosocial system, and humanity. The initial provisions regarding the recognition of the unity of the universal laws and the development of the universe, and the existence of mutual dependencies of the development of systems of different nature, including society, humanity, received as solid evidence base. Also, in the areas of combining scientific and non-scientific knowledge, spiritual principles of East and West. In the beginning of the 20th century, there was the understanding corresponds to the existing definition of interaction as an objective and universal form of development which determines the existence and structure organization of any material system. The interaction occurs at the level of aggregation of systems of different nature and manifests itself through a mechanism of connections between elementary principles. Interaction mechanism or a factor and condition of system integration. This level of development corresponds to the stages of formation of system, inanimate, plant, animal, human, and spiritual. At the present, science has accumulated many examples of interaction that describe various physical, chemicals, wave field information, and other processes involving elementary particles, forces in animate living and social systems. The determining factor in the formation of interaction process in the connections and relations of those elementary formations of matter and substance that determine its nature and qualitative characteristics, the specific of information and media exchange within the between the systems. It is an established scientific fact that for the interaction to occur, it is sufficient to have two multidirectional forces of elementary particles of matter, which are manifested at the beginning of the development of systems and the processes of the origin and development of the universe. The application of universal laws to the consideration inside the system and between the systems. Interaction manifests itself concerning the actions of people to each other within the system of humanity. This understanding of the problem is a very well-established opinion of sociology, psychology, social psychology, and communication theory. I will add that the study of this formation of society, of socially allowed scientists to speak about the achievement of the integrative stage of development of society. Sociality manifests itself not only as a complementary property of natural individuals, but also as a result of human evolution in the artificial environment. Moreover, the modern global society is currently acquiring the future of single subject of social action and determines the nature of the functioning of the entire human civilization. The global society also becomes a single social institution that is subject to global unification and standardization, the establishment of common rules and norms of social life, common behaviors, stereotypes, etc. Integration processes in society have affected all aspects of society, including the person as its bearer.
И к обществу, но по-особенному взаимодействие проявляется относительно действий людей друг к другу. Такое понимание проблемы
This allows us to continue the systematic and integrative study of humanity, the main active elements in which are representative of a single human race. And also philosophy. This traditional approach focuses on the differences in the global community, which is a complex diversity. The achievement of a modern critical state of mankind is a consequence and result of cultural and historical development in the vector of consumer attitude to nature and other representative of human race. Each individual as a biological representative of the kind individual personality is a reflection of the level of development of society.
Они являются основными элементарными частицами общества и человечества.
However, we must take into account the principles of inter-system information exchange and feedback, which imply a return impact of the state of humanity on society. In other words, the problem of the state of the society cannot be considered based only on partial analysis, comparison, and criticism of the different states and behavior of subjects of social action in the individual group of institutional form.
Изучение формообразований социальности позволило ученым говорить о достижении
According to
При этом социальность, как дополнительное свойство природных индивидов, проявляет себя и как результат эволюционирования человека в искусственной среде. Онтологизация социальных формообразований в современных социологических и философских исследованиях позволила прояснить механизмы глобализации.
According to George Moore's remark, there is only one race after all, humanity. Fragmentation of research of various racial, ethno-national, religious, state status, political, and other parameters no longer correspond to stable trends toward achieving unity of humanity. We should not ignore the fact of integration of the social system in its material, geographical, financial, economic, and other aspects. There's a sign of increased interaction in a system external to humanity, even if it is derived from the combined activities of representative of the human race. It is confirmed that the research in the field of integral philosophy, communication engineering, allows us to achieve the necessary level of coherence of social activities at all levels of the organization of society. We should admit that integration in society has become a catalyst for integration processes in non-material areas that have affected politics, art, education, and trade. It revealed the symptoms of an emerging global evolutionary conflict in the world of individuals who want to achieve their environmental comfort. Researchers who are detecting the processes of atomization of society and man notice this. According to the researchers, society is divided into many points in spatial units, and thus causes to be an anthropic universe, loses its spatiality. expresses in the compatibility of being. This situation multiplies depending on the expansion and strengthening of network contains and is reproduced in the process of interaction in the network environment of modern media space. This leads to a gradual polarization of opinions of the edge of good and evil as determining cultural oppositions, the ultimate states of social consciousness. These are concerned that violation of public connections and relationships, established traditions and norms lead to problems of violation of the quality of society itself, which represents a certain desired result of human life. According to British philosopher and sociologist Zygmunt Bauman, the violation of connections and relationships between people can be considered as the most serious disease of the society and its biosocial essence. Where's the way out? The solution is in use of human potential to overcome the consumer vector in relation to each other, nature and society. According to scientists, in the end, it is not social institutions, structures of systems, but communication that in the determining condition of the development of society. This sphere of interaction has become a system. This system manifests its existence inside and outside of society in all the variety of its system goals, methods, objects, and technologies. Objects that ensure the maintenance of homeostasis of itself and are included in the intersystem processes. In other words, a person is being objectified as an idea or force, which can be lead to qualitative change in the social connections and relationships. Thus, social interaction is a process and the result of human unification when it leads to the integral state of the action involved groups of communities, all humanity. As in natural systems, interaction in the social system should be seen as a factor of integration and condition for reaching a new level of social organization. The circle of the independence of the system of humanity, society, and nature is closing. The integrality of the world is revealed as a potentially necessary level of development of society and mankind in the common space of the universe.
Исследователи фиксируют процесс атомизации общества и человека. По мнению ученых, общество разделяется на множество точек, то есть
This is why the entire world scientific community and society as a whole must understand and accept the already established single scientific picture of the world, a single living space, a single human cultural civilization, and the need to create a balanced, dynamic interaction within the human system.
Современного медиапространства. Это и приводит к постепенной поляризации мнений.
This led us to polarization of opinions of evil, good and evil.
Стоит добавить еще один момент.
I need to add one more moment to what I said before, that we need to add that the consciousness itself in its go through evolution as the whole historical evolution.
Связей и отношений, устоявшихся традиций и норм приводят к проблемам нарушения качества самой социальности, представляющей определенный, желаемый результат жизнедеятельности человека. Нарушение связей и отношений между людьми должно рассматриваться, по мнению ученых, в частности, знаменитого британского философа и социолога Зигмунда Баумана.
Zygmunt Baum said that this is the most serious disease of the society, and there is no without in the society of its biosocial essence.
Для преодоления потребительского вектора в отношении друг друга, природы и общества.
So according to scientists, in the end, it is not social institutions, structures of systems, but the communication that is the determining condition for the development of the society. The sphere of interaction has became a system on its own. This system manifests its existence inside and outside of the society in all its variety and system, goals, methods, objects, and technologies. It ensures maintenance of homeostasis of itself and are included in the intersystem processes. In our world, person is being objectified. The force could lead to a big change in the social connection and relationships. So social interaction, it's a process and a result of human unification and leads to integral state of the parties involved. So as a natural system, interaction of the social system should be seen as a factor of integration and condition for reaching a new level of social organization. So the integrality of the world is revealed as a potentially necessary level of development of society and mankind in the common space of the universe. This is why the entire world, scientific community, and society as a whole must understand that and accept the already established single scientific picture of the world, a single living space, a single human cultural civilization, and the need to create a balanced, dynamic interaction within the human system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valentina, for this wonderful presentation. We have quite a tight schedule, but we do have time for a question, so please answer your question. Yes, please, go ahead.
Валентина, большое спасибо за прекрасный доклад, за очень глубокое
Valentina, thank you so much for the beautiful, beautiful presentation, to very depth analysis of your topic. The question that I have is such. You speak about the role of interaction. Do you separate any kind of interaction? Because not all interaction lead to integration. Especially as far as social interaction are concerned. Of course, the interaction also manifests itself in different forms. We distinguish between a few levels of social interactions. The main of it and foremost is the connection biological kind between the people in our society, and then we look at the contact. And besides that form, it's a separate subject, but we have a lot of publication on it that was prepared by our department. And furthermore, we look at the social interaction. This is the most ancient and long-lasting the interaction in society that has its own form, the dialogue, and all kind of dialogues. And now we're talking about communicative interactions. All of them have their own social purpose, especially in the beginning contacts that have gave birth to all kind of interactions. So that interaction is the basis of all kind of interaction. It's kind of like a embryo that has all kind of forms in it on evolutionary processes. And so, of course, yeah, they're all different, but they all developed with a certain intention. There's always intention to exploit the other. So I personally call it in negative conversion. So everything is dedicated to the goal of individual. So we talk about communication in the contemporary society becomes a turning point. This is we're talking about the perception of reality and about understanding of the reality, and this is the direction that being looked at and developed. But all those technicalities is private details of that direction.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. I would like to say for everyone that's being part of this through YouTube and Facebook, we receive a lot of questions, and we will collect all the questions. And if we have time at the end of this conference, we will answer the questions, or during the roundtable discussion, which is tomorrow, or they can be taken to the Facebook group, which is called IWRI Global. And I would like to mention our email address for any other questions, which is projectiri@gmail.com. So thank you very much. We go to the next presenter of today, which is Gregory Notkin. He's from our IWRI Research Associate. He's from Ukraine, and he will be speaking about reality tunnel from diversity to unity. So please go ahead. Mr. Grigory Notkin, you may give your presentation if you're ready, please.
Спасибо за
Yes, thank you.
Во-первых, я
Thank you
хотел
for
сказать,
presenting
насколько
me.
приятно слушать всех
I would like to
предыдущих
say
докладчиков.
that this is so
Мы
wonderful
вместе,
to
в
listen to
общем-то,
all
говорим об
the
одном и том же, об
preceding
единстве мира,
presenters.
единстве
And
человечества,
we're talking about the unity of the world
его
and the unity of the mankind,
гармонизации.
and
Мой доклад
its
тоже
harmonization. And my presentation is also dedicated to that, and not much different from other presentation. This is a tunnel of reality from diversity to unity. Let me open my presentation. A second, please. Can you see my shared screen? Okay. So tunnel of reality from diversity to unity. This is a like kind of annotation. The report is a tunnel of reality. Is devoted to actual problem changing on the worldview of the modern generation of people, the problem of forming a new consciousness of the mankind's unity, of all the diversity of people, cultures inhabiting on our earth. At the end of my presentation, I will open the conclusion of my presentation. So maybe that would be a little bit more convenient to do that. So
актуальность проблемы у современного человечества
the
особая задача научиться.
Modern humanity has a special task to learn how to create and strengthen good relations with all that today's diversity of people, movements, political parties, significant differences in the way of life of the secular and religious population, great differences in cultural, religious traditions. In other words, to learn to perceive, to feel the unity of the world, which consists of many people, countries, with all their great differences. After all, the survival of earthly civilization with so many weapons of mass destruction, global imbalance with the natural environment, depends on the radical change in the outlook of most people living in our planet. From today's thinking, dividing all reality into me and them, we and others, ours and strangers, friends and enemies, to the general planetary consciousness of the unity of all mankind as a single system, in the feeling that we're all one family. We'll talk about the natural environment right now. Biodiversity is the most important factor in the development of life on Earth. If you look closely at how life was formed on our planet, how it continues to exist despite of all the threats of its existence, then the most important factor for stable development is a huge variety of natural and biological links. Biodiversity is one of the fundamental phenomena that characterizes the manifestation of life on Earth. The decline in the level of biodiversity takes a special place among the main environmental problems of our time. The article of Single, 2017. The most important reason in the desire to conserve biodiversity is that it plays a leading role in ensuring the stability of ecosystems and biosphere as a whole, absorption of pollution, stabilization of the climate, provision of habitable conditions. The ecological value of species diversity is a prerequisite for the survival and sustainable functioning of ecosystems. Biological species provide the processes of formation, soil fertility. And this is the taken from the book, the ecological. Also, the human body consists of millions of cells, dozens of organs, which are anatomically, psychologically different from one another, physiologically different from one another, but their correct interaction, maintaining the balance of receiving and giving in each cell organ ensures the integrity and health of the organism. That is the most important factor for harmonious development. The integrity of any link in the natural environment, including our body, is the diversity of its individual parts, links, but provided that they complement each other, a balance of interchange is maintained between them. Awareness of the importance of differences between people. Human society emerged, developed according to the same laws of the functioning of the natural environment of which it is a part. Primitive tribes differ little from those animal communities among which they lived. The struggle for survival, for the preservation of a kind a tribe lead to a first struggle with the neighboring tribes, the animal world. The unification of different small tribes increased the chance of survival, increased the resistance of such communities to various kinds of Catholicism, natural phenomenon. The further development of human society from a primitive communal to slave system and the feudalism, capitalism, and socialism contributed to the creation of kingdoms, empires, modern countries with an era, ever-increasing variety of the subjects, citizens, property, education, and mental differences between people in one country, a group of countries were constantly growing. In recent centuries, a large part of the population has appeared adhering to a secular lifestyle, an aesthetic perception of the world. And all these differences between people, nation, countries on one hand led to personal and social conflicts, quarrels, bloody wars. But on the other hand, they are the most important factors of the development of human civilization. They increase the chances of preserving life on our planet. True, on condition that we learn to use all these differences not for conflicts, wars, but for the sake of mutual enrichment of each other, for a more objective perception of the world around us. Today's tendencies toward globalization of the world, even closer interconnections, interdependence of even the most distant countries from each other, and the presence of weapons of mass destruction in many of them prompts more and more scientists, public figures, representative economic and political and elites to pay special attention to the harmonization of relations between very different people nations. That so far, however, it is not very successful. Vladimir Vernadsky wrote, "Humanity is one, and although the overwhelming mass of it is recognized, but this unity is manifested by forms of life which actually deepen and strengthen its imperceptibility for a person spontaneously as a result of unconscious aspiration to him. The life of humanity, with all its heterogeneity, has become indivisible, united." I also would like to say about practical states of unity. Development of a modern system of integral united people, upbringing and education provides general knowledge, practical skills, how good relations are created between yesterday's ideological and other opponents. It's from the book of Ulyanov and Lightman.
как создаются добрые отношения даже между вчерашними идеологическими и другими противниками. Конечно же, требуется определенное время, чтобы пришло понимание, признание.
Of course, it takes a certain time for understanding, recognition to come that all the differences between individuals, movements, parties not only do not interfere with the mutual understanding, but contribute to it. If you learn the art of mutual concessions, compromises. If we agree that no one is absolutely right, if you recognize the limitation of each because of his ego, objectivity, perceive the world around him, this is a very important thing to recognize. And we need all the diversity of the opinions out there. There is also such a term in the modern section of psychology, quantum psychology, reality tunnel. This reality tunnel can be explained when comprehending reality due to the mutual enrichment of different opinions. Timothy Leary is the first one who used that term, and Wilson, the author of this work, states, the diversity of people can be a huge evolutionary force for our human race. After all, we can learn from individuals features which allow them to use, to see, hear, and feel things that we were previously trained not to see, hear, or not feel. And this is very important approach to for understanding how to interact between people. And also a few citation about communication between people. I'll probably put a slide on the screen because my presentation is coming to the end. So here it is. I'm sorry for the little delay. It's about communication between the people.
Чтобы каждый из нас хочет от другого, что он требует и хотел бы видеть в партнере.
So we discuss in turn without interrupting one another. At the time stipulated by the regulations, all opinions are important as well as mine. And this is a powerful mechanism that allows different people to hear and agree in some ways with the diverse, even opposite opinions on certain issues. It's roundtable discussion, brainstorming, according to the certain principles. This is from the book of Ontologists. Hertz draws attention to we must learn at least to perceive what we cannot accept from the surrounding world. We must learn to at least perceive what we cannot accept. It is extremely difficult to achieve this, as it always has been, and is the skill that we must tirelessly master. And there's very interesting words of Zachary Woods, the famous psychologist, who said, we become stronger, not weaker, if we dare to make contact with those with whom we disagree. We can develop the capacity for empathy and deeper understanding if we try to get acquainted with the conflicting ideas and unfamiliar opinions. So, and also very important and powerful mechanism that allows different people to hear and agree in some ways. So this could in practice help people to overcome this seeming diversity and maybe to agree with one another with the maybe even opposite opinions. This all brainstorming according to certain principles. 5 the basic principles. All opinions are important as well as mine. We discussed in turn without interrupting each other at the time stipulated by the regulations. We do not express disagreement, negative judgments about previous opinions. We do not argue, but we add our own arguing it. We try to find a solution that satisfies everyone in several rounds of discussions of the problem or get closer to it. The most important principle of working out a common solution is the art of seeing mutual concessions, compromises. So such discussions and roundtables according to the indicated principles make it possible for a variety of people to find out the opinions of each other, to agree with them in some ways, to feel other people. Even yesterday's opponents are as closer, beginning to arouse sympathy. It's a very important psychological principle. So when the arguing parties try to understand and agree with one another, so that's some kind of a warm relationship aroused between them. So now I come to the conclusion. So I'd like to, the first one, diversity in nature. Biodiversity ensures the sustainability of the development of the entire biosphere is essential for the survival of mankind. Diversity of people, nations, or on our planet, no diversity, is the most important factor in the emergence of the harmonious civilization of reason in the near future. united humanity noosphere provided that the majority of the inhabitants on Earth understand that it is the diversity of cultures, historical features of the development of each people, country, group of countries that is useful. It is important for the formation of the planetary consciousness of unity. An example of building such a community is required in which people, different in many qualities, learn to overcome all differences, find the possibility of mutual concessions, compromises, begin to feel like a single system, a single family. And the practical steps towards creating a society in which everyone cares about each other, perceives everyone as a single family, despite the great differences between people, movements, parties, begin with the recognition of the usefulness of these differences. The differences that complement each other make it possible to more objectively perceive the surrounding reality, to make less mistakes in choosing the development strategy for each country and the whole world. And the most important element in the formation of such worldview leading to unity is the rapidly developing system of integral upbringing and education, a powerful mechanism that contributes to the reconciliation of different, even opposing opinions in the discussion of all pressing problems in the format of round table on certain principles, leading to a search of mutual compromises and common agreement. And with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention and time. And if we have time for questions, please, I'm open to it.
Thank you very much, Gregory. This was really a wonderful presentation. We do have a question which came from Facebook, and it's from Sergei Lubenko. And I would like to ask Sana, if you please, it's in Russian, can ask the question to Gregory.
Or possibly Natalie, can you translate?
Sure. Is that in the chat?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, hold on a second. Let me open the chat. Here it is. Is that from Pavel? Is that what it is? Oh, Lupitenko. Elementary particles of the society. It's an adequate analogy of elementary. Oh, you want me to read in Russian? Is that what you want me to?
Oh, both is fine.
Okay. Elementary particles of the society. It's an adequate analogy of elementary particles in physics. This is too abstract. We don't consider specific of physical and social systems. It's very deep differences, and united scientific picture of the world. You say that, but there always be many of those pictures, and they're often opposite to one another, contradictory. So this kind of approach, I think it's a utopia. That's what it says in a question or comment of Sergei Lupitenko.
Так, спасибо за вопрос. Честно говоря, не совсем понял, что утопия, да?
Thank you very much for utopia. This is a different points of view. Maybe I didn't understand.
Это в самом деле сложно. Ну, я
indeed, it's a complicated question.
В самом деле люди имеют разные полярные часто мнения.
In reality, people have polarized opinions on the same subject. They could argue endlessly about it and could lead even to the conflict, but we live in the 21st century after all, and we understand that the general globalization and interdependence of the countries and people, it reached the critical point, and whether we want it or not, we need to listen to one another and interact peacefully. So, and the psychologists talk about it, and Quantum psychology talks about it, that people start to understand that they cannot comprehend the reality, its complexity, and its in all its glory. And so in their egoistic perception, its limited perception of reality, and their education does not allow them to see that. So we should allow opposite opinions. So if both parties understand that they have only partial perception of the reality, then they could come to some kind of agreement, some kind of reconciliation, and form opinion that would illustrate the picture of the reality a little bit more closer. And so you probably know about it, the bulk of wisdom, some wisdom. So the statistically proven that different opinions could be describe more realistic picture of the world than one single opinion, even if it's even the most talented one. So diversity is bringing to more united opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go to the next presenter of today, which is Miss Karen Levine. She's from New York, USA, and she's a member of our IWRI Children's Education Department. Her presentation will be about Dewey, Inspired Education in the Coronavirus Era, Perspectives from Within a Fun, Socially Oriented Virtual School Experiment. Well, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Inger, and thank you to all the speakers so far. I really enjoyed it, and I'll get right to it. This paper that I submitted a few months ago to the conference is a sort of a preparatory paper to a longer work I'm developing over the next half year, where I've begun to examine some of the innovative educational developments that took place in the IWRI Institute in our department in childhood education. And I've begun this examination based on the philosophy of John Dewey. And there are several reasons for that. Well, first of all, I really like John Dewey. I think he's very close to integral methodology. And also he is really the philosopher of education from the 20th century. He was one of the most influential philosophers of education, particularly in the United States, and he continues to be. I actually picked up his books right before the coronavirus started, when libraries were still open, which is not the case anymore. So I could just show you, he was a very prolific writer. So this is the books on which this work is based on. I think I'll have about 5 minutes to summarize the main points I took from those in this work. And then I will try to show how, his philosophy, and particularly his metaphysics, can be maybe extended or interpreted through this new experimentation of children's education in virtual reality. Okay, let me start my presentation. Okay. Just a second. Okay, present. Oops. Present. Okay, so I hope everyone can see that. So I'm just going to start with a quote from School and Society, which he wrote in 1900. The obvious fact is that our social life has undergone a thorough and radical change. If our education is to have any meaning for life, it must pass through an equally complete transformation. Now, he wrote this over a century ago, referring to the great social changes that were happening with the Industrial Revolution. And I think now, I think Dewey's philosophy is very universal, and the same kind of words could be applied today. There's great social changes happening now, particularly in this time of coronavirus. really many changes going on, especially in society and education. So here he's kind of saying that when there are such great social changes, the education must completely transform, you know, if it is to have any meaning for life. So, oh wait, how do I, okay, there we go. So the title of this paper, which I was working on a few months ago, is Dewey Inspired Education in the Coronavirus Era, Perspectives from Within a Fun, Socially Oriented Virtual School Experiment. And if we have time, I'll get into sort of the next stage, that kind of following Dewey, that I've begun to do some work with Schopenhauer, which I think extends the thinking started here. So the kind of working title now is Mapping Social Virtual Education on Dewey's and Schopenhauer's Metaphysics. I don't know if we'll have time to get into Schopenhauer. If the moderator could please give me like a 5-minute notice, so I'll know how far to go into this. So I'll just talk briefly about Dewey's metaphysics and views on education. Then I'll get a little bit into this virtual school experiment that was developed and implemented in IWRI, and since then also continued by some partners and colleagues of IWRI, and then try to make some connections with how this experiment is illuminated by Dewey's philosophy. And in doing that, I would like to point out one of Dewey's very interesting concepts. He talks about empirical philosophy when we take some practical experiences or testing, and then we perform a philosophic work with it, that this work of philosophy results in a unique product that can then be reinserted into the practical experience and extend the realization of potentialities. So I hope some of that can be accomplished with this philosophical work. And then if we have time, I'll talk a little bit about further questions for consideration regarding whether virtual education entails a loss because we minimize embodied experiences or embodied knowledge, or stated differently, do we advance or regress epistemologically and experientially speaking when we disregard the physical bodies and crude physical experiences? And those questions are explored further with Schopenhauer's metaphysics. So my tentative hypothesis, I'm just going to throw this out, kind of my tentative hypothesis in this work at this stage is that disembodied, socially oriented education in the virtual reality can be a means of coming to know ourselves and reality in senses beyond knowledge or reason. And the children of today are naturally inclined to develop into this dimension. And I hope I'll be able to show how I'm getting to this hypothesis. Okay, so now let me briefly go over Dewey's metaphysics and views on education. In his book, Experience and Nature, as well as other works, he really outlines this idea that conscious experience, or really all human experience, is in and of nature. And let me talk a little bit about that. So the human condition is such that the individual consciousness is always undergoing this experience that is in and of nature. And he really writes about this beautifully. He writes that experience possesses depth and breadth to an indefinitely elastic extent, and that it penetrates into nature and expands without limit through it. He writes that human experience is the only method for penetrating nature's secrets, and that this applies to materialistic experiences, just to aesthetic and moral ones. So, the aesthetic and moral and sort of more disembodied experiences reach as deeply and truly into nature as engagement in materialistic or physical sciences. And also the consciousness that experiences nature being in and of nature it cannot be a distinct or separate entity from nature, because then such experience would be impossible. So the consciousness is embedded into nature and undergoes a process of continuous discovery as it expands throughout nature. Now, all of these ideas are laid out in his work, Experience and Nature. And then furthermore, he makes a really interesting statement throughout many of his works. He says all experience is social. So I think that's really interesting, an interesting statement in light of the fact that all experience is in and of nature, that it's also social. He says all experience is social. And he's very prolific about, education and what education should be like. So I think these educational views are informed by his metaphysics. He underlines in many of his works that social and moral learning should be the main focus of education. He's kind of critical of, prior education systems and their focus on technical knowledge, and really constantly underlines the need for social learning experiences, the need to learn through a social environment. And I can just show another quote from the book Democracy and Education. The previous quote was from Moral Principles in Education, and in Democracy and Education, which is a really a major work of his. He writes, all the aims and values which are desirable in education are moral, where moral traits are marks of a person who is a worthy member of society, so that what he gets from living with others balances with what he contributes. So again, he says all the aims and values in education should be moral and social, relating to, this giving and receiving of society, between an individual and society. And then I just want to point out another theme, which he talks about, which is our constraints in interpreting these notions, and being able to know their authentic referential values. Okay, I'm still here. He says that we are constrained by limitations or prejudices when we talk about these concepts such as nature, experience, social, moral. We're constrained and limited by the education we have received from society so far. So, when we think about the referential values of these words, meaning, when we use these words, what do they refer to? What is kind of the meaning behind these words? We interpret them, based on the education we received from society. And he says we could come closer to uncovering their authentic referential values, or we can surpass the prior referential values of these notions, because we have a capacity to delve further and deeper by using reflective and creative philosophical inquiry. So again, inviting us to kind of stretch the limits of how we understand these notions, of what is society, what is nature, what is experience. Okay, so at this point, I want to shift to looking at the educational experiment that took place in IWRI, and then go on to thinking how that correlates to Dewey's philosophy. I'm going to show just for half a minute a video kind of summarizing the educational experiment, so that hopefully to kind of get into that, I hope you'll have sound. Okay.
Hi, wie geht's?
Hello, how are you?
Hallo.
Good morning.
Morgen. 8 Uhr früh.
8 a.m. The first lesson begins in the virtual school.
Good morning. We have now history lesson and we will visit a medieval city. Let's go.
60 students from all over Israel, from 1st to 6th grade, take part in the pilot project each from their home, on their computer. They are all together as avatars in the virtual school. For several hours a day, core subjects such as English, math, and history are taught in different 3D worlds.
In a virtual space.
Okay, so just that was just to give like a visual of what this experiment looked like. And so as we could see, it took place in this virtual reality. You know, the children and the teachers arrived in their virtual classrooms. Their physical bodies were sitting in their rooms, you know, separated by large physical distances. Some of these people were even located half the globe apart from each other. And they interacted through their avatars in a classroom. Then they went outside of the classroom to a campus, to a forest. And this all took place in this realistic, kind of realistic setting in Verbella. Later, they took some of these activities to a more game-like virtual world in Minecraft. Afterwards, they also explored other virtual platforms such as Eureka, which offered sort of other types of experiences. For example, what we saw, learning about medieval times by walking around this medieval street and castle in this virtual world, or they had a lesson about marine life, and then they swam underwater in this virtual world, observing, you know, jellyfish and other animals that they were learning about. Now, in the course of these experiences, the participants, the children and the teachers engaged in a shared real life experience. So although everything was virtual, including the avatars through which they experienced these activities together, instead of through physical bodies, they really had real social experiences. And these were experienced by real people, or I guess their consciousness that was present in this virtual world, rather than, you know, wherever they were physically located. So just as an example, one of the children in this virtual world of Verbella, she wasn't able to get to her classroom when it was time for class. She got lost in this virtual campus, and she became really scared, and she felt really lost. And she asked, you know, the adults not to leave her alone. And at the same time, she really was safe in her home, but she was more fully participating in this shared virtual reality. So her consciousness was inhabiting this shared, very real space together with her friends and teachers. And after the experiment, when the children were asked, you know, what struck them most about this experience, what they enjoyed most, almost all of them responded that the best part was being together with their friends there. So this experience of being together in this virtual world was quintessentially social. The physical dimension of experience was muted, and pretty much all that was left in this virtual school was the social or moral dimension supported by this virtual setting. So kind of getting a feel for this experience and returning to Dewey for a moment to try to map this experience onto his metaphysics. I want to cite another quote from his book, Democracy in Education. And this quote is kind of the culminating, like on the last few pages of the book, after he's talks a lot about, in that particular book, about, you know, the meaning of democracy and social, the social order that he thinks is ideal. So this book kind of culminates in this statement, which I really like this this quote. So he goes, "What one gets and gives as a human being, a being with desires, emotions, and ideas, is not external possessions, but a widening and deepening of conscious life, a more intense, disciplined, and expanding realization of meanings. What he materially receives and gives is at most opportunities and means for the evolution of conscious life. I would love to hear maybe others' thoughts and kind of responses to this, but the outcome that sort of I was getting from mapping this virtual setting and kind of delving into Dewey is that the virtual setting provides a means to engage in real interactions while annulling the physical or material experience. And again, referring back to this quote, he says the material or physical experience is at most opportunities and means for the evolution of conscious life and realization of meaning. So I think this virtual setting frees us to engage more fully in the internal realm of meaning and expanding consciousness. Now, I don't know if we have time to talk a little bit about how this line of thinking is expanded through Schopenhauer. I don't know if I have time to continue. Okay. The question that sort of arises out of this is, does virtual education entail a loss when we minimize these embodied experiences or embodied knowledge? And this is, I think, the prevalent view today by many teachers, many parents, who see the shift to virtual education as a loss, as something, a regression, and that by not engaging in physical experiences, that the children are losing something. And also from the philosophical kind of point of view, we can ask, are we advancing or regressing epistemologically, meaning in our knowledge or kind of ability to know things, and experientially in the experiences we're having, when we disregard physical bodies and crude physical experiences. And so in exploring this question, which kind of arose after thinking about Dewey, I turned to Schopenhauer and how that might inform us about that question. And again, the moderator, please stop me if I'm out of time, because this is kind of part two of this inquiry. So Arthur Schopenhauer was a German philosopher, and he has this really famous book called The World as Will and Representation, or Idea. So this was a translation from German, and some translators translate this as representation and some translate it as idea. So those are kind of the same concept as translated to English, where he's really influenced by Kant and Kantian philosophy, and where he says the main kind of thing in existence is this, what he calls will, and it's something Kant calls the thing in itself, and then everything else are representations or ideas of that will. So this is based on Kant's transcendental idealism, which teaches us that all phenomenon, all things in the world, they're representations only and not things by themselves. So Kant calls this the thing in itself. Schopenhauer calls this the will. And Kant says this thing in itself is underlying all phenomena and the whole of nature. And Schopenhauer calls this the will, which is the only real, true, primary metaphysical thing in the world. And everything else are phenomena, which are representations or idea. And he also says that will lies beyond knowledge or reason, that it's metaphysical while knowledge is physical and depends on faculties of the physical body. And he also says that will is unknowable, yet he does urge us to inquire into discovering what this will is, which I think implies that he's saying that it is knowable, but in a form that's beyond knowledge or reason. And so again, I mentioned this in the beginning of my presentation. My tentative hypothesis right now is that from looking at the virtual education is that disembodied and socially oriented education in the virtual reality can be a means of coming to know ourselves and reality in senses beyond knowledge or reason, and that children of today are naturally inclined to develop in this dimension, into this dimension. And I think also importantly, this metaphysics that the world is my idea, like right, ideas sort of projected by the will, it doesn't deny the physical reality, but it just informs us that the material reality does not exist irrespective of the perceiver. So the two are compatible. Empirical reality, right, as studied by the physical sciences, and transcendental ideality, they are compatible. And Schopenhauer talks about this concept of the world being only a dream. He refers to Plato that talked about this, the Vedas and Puranas, kind of Indian philosophy. We know also Jewish sources say the same thing. And so, so this sort of physical reality is construed sort of as a dream, as almost not having an existence in itself, but that there is an inner nature of the world that is distinct from the idea. And he's urging us to explore, you know, whether the world is something else. It's more than an idea or more than this phenomenological dream. And he talks about the role of the physical body in all of this, which is our topic of inquiry at the moment, sort of what happens, right, when we start to perceive, when we minimize the role of the physical body. So Schopenhauer does say that the physical body is also an idea generated by the will, but it has a unique role, a unique place. It's an idea through which we perceive other ideas. So the physical faculties of the body determine how we perceive or generate these other ideas. And he writes that the body is nothing but objectified will, will that becomes idea, or the objectivity of will. And I'm suggesting that in kind of moving to the virtual space, we de-objectify the will. And my kind of suggestion at this point is that when we inhabit this virtual world, we change our use of and relationship with the physical body, which leads us closer to knowing the will, which again, the will is sort of unknowable. It's beyond reason or knowledge. And that might become possible if we annul the body completely. And I am suggesting that children today are inclined to this naturally, as they are just drawn to these virtual worlds much more than the physical world. And again, that concludes my presentation. Again, this is all kind of preliminary thinking, and I will kind of be working more on this over the next half a year. So if we have another conference, I hope I'll have kind of more definitive insights into this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. We do have some questions, or at least one. When developing a virtual study where their children will lose their communication skills in real life, they may start thinking like in a game, and the level of knowledge that will be with such training. I guess it's a reflection, really not a question per se. When developing a virtual study, whether children will lose, I guess if the children will lose their communication skills in real life, if they start thinking, you know, it's a game, how would you address that?
Thank you. Yes, so I think that again reflects sort of the fear and hesitation of many parents and teachers to, you know, to spend so much time, you know, of children's education in the virtual reality. And I think the fact of this, of what's happening now, it leaves us no choice. I mean, we are in this virtual reality. I mean, I know at least here in New York, the virus is just going up. I mean, but in terms of losing the social and communication skills, I think this is exactly why it's so crucial to focus on the social and communicative aspect of education, even virtually, that, you know, education should, I mean, while imparting, you know, technical knowledge in different fields, it has to really focus on the social aspect of education and communication. And I think there's no problem that it's virtual, because I think the virtual, whatever is learned virtually in the social sphere does translate into the physical interactions as well. But it is very important to make, you know, a special emphasis on social interactions of communication. And I think the fact that it's a game, I mean, I think children are always in a game, you know, the minute you leave them alone and don't force them to do what you want, they're playing, they're imagining. And so I don't think that's negative. Yeah, thank you. I hope that answered.
Thank you so much, Karen. I don't see any other questions right now, but we will hopefully have time at the end of the session today to address other questions that we have not been able to get to. So our next speaker is Pastor Akim Onyekachi Ikunze. And the pastor is from South Africa. He's a theologian, businessman, and director at Rock Glen, Zimbabwe Limited, and CEO of Domainso Investment Group, South Africa. He is an electrical engineer with a postgraduate in entrepreneurship. His topic is marriage, a critical aspect for family relationships in our world. Pastor?
Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for the platform. It's been so informative and educative for, you know, all of us. And I'm so glad to be part of this work. I'll speak on marriage, a critical aspect of family relations in our world. The consciousness of nature around us and who we are plays a great role in understanding the subject of our discussion and solving the challenges of quality that pertains to the present or the recent times through synthesis in society, science, and culture. Society, science, and culture cannot be dealt with in isolation. I will narrow down my discussion on culture, but before I do, I would like to shed light on the fundamental part of nature and creation. It goes back to the beginning of time. We believe in a force, a source, an originator who created everything and pre-existed creation. He made science and arranged our society in an organized order. Hence, the totality of a person's way of life in relation to his environment and elements that surround him are his reality. I would like to point to the application of science as the most important tool in the whole of life itself. What is said of the use of word for mankind is what separates them from animals. Also, you cannot separate a man from his word. A man's word is his bond and his identity. Without the privilege of seeing my image, you can only imagine my personality or identity with regards to my voice, which you can hear or perceive. It is agreed in most spiritual systems that the supreme being who created all that is used words to create and recreate, thereby producing animate and inanimate objects. An understanding that the concept of the word spoken, call it what you may, brought forth light over darkness, The elements that were created were already in existence. Hence, we make reference to Einstein's theory of relativity, where he says energy is equal to mass times speed of light squared, where energy, mass are equivalent and transmittable, 020202. Energy E, mass, that's M, matter, hence substance. And then C is constant, which is speed of light squared, which is 010101. What does that tell you? That energy is matter. Therefore, if energy is matter, it means your speech is matter. Hence, the smallest component of any element may not be an atom. It's likely to be a sound mass, meaning in every particle, there is a sound wave that can contain a sound code. If it contains a sound code because it contains a sound wave, it means it will respond to a sound wave. This helps us to see the relationship between physical things and spiritual things. I mean, those that study quantum physics will relate to this. You can understand why we will call things from the spiritual realm into the physical. Our words are powerful. They are a bridge between the physical and spiritual. They are both physical and, interestingly, they are spiritual. Think about this. It is true that speech creates sound wave and therefore has energy. For instance, when we tune the volume of your radio so much that it produces vibration when it's on bars or high pitched, it indicates the presence of sound wave. Then it is true that sound wave has energy. They come from speech. It is the power of speech. This is why high intensity ultrasound focusing is used to destroy cancer cells. It means that words can destroy cancer cells depending on their intensity. Therefore, the words we speak can create or destroy. This means that it is dangerous to speak negative words because you are instructing subatomic particles on what you are involved in. It is just like Mr. Masaru Emoto, a Japanese pseudoscientist, who became world famous because of his pioneering and original research on the effect of words or emotions on molecular structure of ordinary water. He claimed that expressions of positive or negative emotions affect water and then observed these through frozen crystals of water. Solving the problem, this is the reason we have to go back to a fundamental base to correct the omission of the spiritual part of education, which was systematically removed from the inception of modern education. The modern right-thinking person has no doubt about the worth of education, which connects humans to the achievements of civilization and prepares them for the independent creative activity in their chosen field of endeavor. Both the family and the university play a vital and pivotal role in education because the educational process emerges from the family and the teaching process from the higher educational institution. Education, which is now primarily a part of state policy, controls and determines its budget with significant costs in many countries. In the age-old system, the education and teaching were conducted mainly in the family. In the passing era from communal to slave system, the old traditions of family education were kept and then changed. The function of work of a teacher, or even the art of the science of teaching itself, were prerogative of patriarchal family, which were fixed in the literary monuments of ancient East. The schools and educational system of ancient East were developed in line with specific historical, cultural, moral, and ideological values. The human was formed within the rigid social regulators, responsibilities, and personal dependence on others. The idea of individuality by humans was very poorly considered. The personality dissolved in the family, caste, and social stratum. Hence, the reliance on strict forms and methods of education was present. The focus in teaching and education on the most ancient Eastern civilization was on the family, religious institutions, and states. The reason for this is that the family was not able to provide a community with a sufficient number of people with experience in reading, writing, and studying law. That was why the educational institutions created by a secular government and the religious began to teach the populace in order to supplement their officials. The transition period, when the first human civilization arose, is characterized by deep change in the practice of education and teaching. The ways of transmission of the cultural heritage of ancestors from adults to children changed qualitatively. There were special educational frameworks for teaching the younger generation. Moral education in ancient Egypt and Africa was conducted mainly through memorization and meditation of moralizing concepts, like in Igbo language, we say gidi gidi bu ugweze, meaning the pride of a king is in the support of his kinsmen. Ajowa ajuja ala, ajo ewi. It means if you seek wisdom, consult with the elders. Reading, writing, and storing such instructions was not easy, as they are expressed in the language of hieroglyphics that are different from living speech. The spirituality of concepts was key, where they dwelt in that high level of engagement through prayer and meditation. The purpose and objective of education then was to prepare for activities that family members were traditionally engaged in. So the family was the basic unit of teaching. Musicians, artisans, priests, and so on passed their professions or trade onto their children. Fathers, craftsmen sometimes used props and crafted toys in teaching their children. Models of agricultural implements, mills, forges, and so on. The military act was transferred strictly to specific classes. The families and the communities of future soldiers were taught to use weapons, special exercises to develop strength, endurance, agility. So a family system with full involvement in education is vital to integrating our world. This now is where marriage is important and the marrying out of a bride. In Africa, when it's marriage, there's celebration, elating, joy. Now, marriage brings integration of cultures and belief systems together, where we learn from one another, unite families, live together in harmony, and incorporate ideologies to develop into a peaceful world. This is a holy ground with sanctity. It means that you do not come into the marriage union with an intention to leave. Marriage is a safe ground for building a family relationship, which educates, sculptures, and forms a framework that molds our society. In today's world, we cannot successfully integrate our society, science, and culture without the foundation of this union, known as the institution of marriage. Another organized family system will produce a world of peace, joy, harmony, and inclusiveness. Science, society, and culture have now been introduced, as seen above. Man, in the realm of something more sublime than animal. He speaks, therefore, according to my previous explanation, the bridge between physical and the spiritual is accomplished. Man has been able to conquer his world as expected, but the divergence in his view and tolerance to integrate these key components is focus of our discussion. It has been a huge challenge in our world today. If you've noticed, whatever we have in the world today is said to be discovered or invented because it had always been in existence. Thomas Edison, who invented the incandescent light bulb, the phonograph, and much more, was held back from a formal school as a child. He was educated and trained by his mother at home. This family system is very important and hence leads us into our discussion of marriage. I'll look at the purpose of marriage and the role of society. The purpose and reason for marriage. We see two very important principles. Number one, marriage was instituted by a higher power or model and not man. Man was given the opportunity to make his choice in another human being. The second point is that the purpose of marriage is for you to be joined with one of the opposite gender who would help you fulfill your calling and the responsibilities in your life. Marriage is primarily to help you serve better and live a life worthy of connectiveness in honor and dignity. The secondary reason for marriage includes having goodly seed, children. A goodly family is the smallest unit of your natal family. The second point is companionship. Companionship, in this instance, should not connote having someone physically by your side all the time, but someone of like mind who is working with you towards common goals, regardless of where he or she is physically located at any point in time. In ancient days, a big family was an advantage for industrialization and productivity because they were the workforce. There existed strong bonds and connections. The third point is abstaining from fornication. Marriage provides the avenue where legitimate sexual desires could be fulfilled effectively. Through these, though these are the most common stated reasons for marriage, there are secondary reasons and should not overshadow the primary purpose of marriage. Marriage is determined primarily by how involved in spiritual things that the parties are than by how old chronologically they are. So someone who is not yet accountable for specific responsibilities in the house is not yet ready for marriage. Spiritual responsibility starts from the lower level. The first prerequisite is that you must be a responsible and consistent member of your family. If you cannot pass the faithfulness test at this level, you will never get bigger responsibilities. The second point, the role of the family. The family expects to be involved in relationship before they are even contracted or they are among the first to be informed. For the man, or for the young man that is getting married, you should have received appropriate counsel from before proposing. And for the lady, you should also have received appropriate counsel before accepting. Why some marriages fail? That's our third point. As shocking as this may sound, it is not automatic for marriage between, as shocking as this may be, it is not automatic for marriage between good and nice people to work out. Just the same way as it is not automatic for every good person to be prosperous or healthy, etc. Though the provision has been made, so also it is with marriage. The number one cause of distress in home is ignorance. Ignorance of the responsibility of each member in that household. Marriage seminars can help couples, but are not the only solution. The need for the couples to find in their deep spiritual roots answers to connection is paramount. This is why a marriage in which one or both parties do not have time to engage spiritually will end up with problems. Another related reason for the rise in divorce rate is that couples try to build their marriage solely on the love they feel for each other. They assume that such love transcends all problems, so they do not bother to involve concepts of higher spiritual worth with their marriage decisions. Lastly, what about simple disagreement? We all need to work at compromise. We need to listen to the words and perceptives of the other spouse, rising above our personal egoism and allow him or her what comes from their own perspective and nature. This kind of respect for the other can lead to compromise, love, and accomplishments, regardless of divergence in the obvious, uncorrected perceptions and properties in each partner. No one person is 100% right or wrong. We can develop a respect for another's point of view, even if we feel a weakness in their perspective. After we have listened to their side, we can acknowledge it and add our personal thought and determine together a middle line that both can accommodate. In conclusion, solving the problem, our global problem of modernity through integration in society, science, and culture needs the application of integral wisdom and education with familiar roots in order to realize that we have to unite together in a mutual relationship of one love, irrespective of disposition, color, race, or geographical location. Thank you so much. Any question?
I may ask you a question, but you're a pastor, you know, so I hope you take the time. What about polygamy? This is an area. What do you think about it? Like in your culture, what is polygamy and your religion? Is it accepted there? And if so, how do you practice it?
All right. Thank you so much for the question. If I will narrow it to, the Christian beliefs, the Christian believes in one man, one woman, you know, they believe in monogamy. But in a situation, because you see, in a situation where someone is not a Christian, you know, or was not one, because I'm telling you, you know, the practices, but in a situation where one wasn't one, he comes into the fold and he is polygamous. Of course, you cannot throw away your family Your family system is your family. Like the lecture I was given now, in the in the olden days, a family is seen. In fact, a very productive family is the one that is big and is polygamous. In the I don't want to go too much in religion, but in Christianity, is one man, one woman. But in the Old Testament, you can relate to that. Abraham, which Christians are the descendants of Abraham to Christ. He had a polygamous family, and it was actually an advantage at the time. In a polygamous family, you have that workforce, like I mentioned. When you look at the family system, everybody is productive, everybody is trained and taught, and there's unity, there is harmony, in that family. I happen to come up from a polygamous family, a very big family, until my Christian beliefs. But if I narrow it to my belief in Christianity, is one man, one woman. I hope I answered your questions. Thank you.
Thank you
Any
so
other
much.
questions?
Thank you so much, Pastor. If you do have any other questions, please post them in the chat and we will address them. We do have a video, one more video that we'd like to share with you. It was the one that Dr. Kelechi wanted to show earlier. And we will go to that right now. Thank you.
Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, for sharing this for me. And that's all. Back to you, moderator. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelechi. Well, I think we have gone over our time. Professor Frame, would you like for us to address maybe one or two questions before we end?
Actually, we really have a very intensive conference, and I would like also only to send my thanks to all the speakers and to all moderators and the broadcast teams, as well as for translators and secretaries who really did wonderful work. And I also hope that we will have even better day tomorrow. Please take into the consideration that the tomorrow session will start at 13 Israeli time and 12 European time. Maybe Alina will give us clue what will be the time in United States when it will begin.
Yes, for Eastern Standard Time, New York City time, tomorrow, Sunday, we will begin quite early. It will be at 6 o'clock in the morning. For Central Europe, I believe we begin at noon, and Israel time will be at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, friends, and please stay tuned, stay safe, and see you tomorrow. Bye.
До завтра. Спасибо всем.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Placebo.
Thank you.